Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for another week of fantastic questions. We've got quite a lot to get at today. We are back on form. We've got a lot of questions to run through. We'll jump to them in just a minute. But before we do, a couple of important things. Like, share, subscribe. You know the YouTube magic. We have already grown the international Kendo community by something like 5,012 people or something like that now. So let's grow it more. The way to do that, you can do that, is by liking, sharing, subscribing, and then commenting down below on this YouTube video. What a great Kendo video. You have to use the word Kendo video in it, so that the YouTube robots and the algorithms and the guys behind the curtain know to show this video or videos like it or from similar channels to people who are just about to start Kendo. And then they look at it and they go, oh, Kendo looks good. I'll go and start and try that. And then we've grown the Kendo community together. As I say, we've already had about 5,012 people start Kendo probably from that method. So let's keep the momentum on it. Let's get to like 5,271 people probably starting by doing our part and putting a comment down below. But most importantly, if you like these videos, if you like Kendo Rant, if you like the feedback videos, if you like the vlog video I put out last week, that was good, wasn't it? My trip to America. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It's a really, really popular video, actually. It was really fun to make. Go and watch that. The instructional videos. I've got more instructional videos. I've been working very hard on one. Coming to you very soon. All for you, free of charge. All you have to do to support it, we're not asking any sort of subscriptions or any of that nonsense. All you have to do is shop at KendoStar.com. KendoStar.com is the best Kendo equipment website in the history of the galaxy, universe, multiverse, everything-verse. Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place, but everyone agrees with me. It's amazing equipment, fantastic value, the best service. You're going to end up shopping with us anyway, so don't waste your money elsewhere and then be disappointed and end up coming to us in the end. Just do the right thing in the first place. Don't buy twice. Just buy once and shop at KendoStar.com. Okay. Let's get to the questions. So first one, we've got loads. We've had some come by email, some by DM on Facebook. Let's have a look here. What we got? We've got good evening, Fisher Sensei. First of all, I hope your family are having a great summer. Yes, very, very busy, but it's good. At the end of September, I'll be challenging Nidan, and I was wondering if you could share any recommendations for a successful exam. For example, for this level in particular, do you think it's important to have an opening strategy in mind and carry it out regardless of what the opponent does? If so, is it better to start with Shikake Waza or set them up for an Oji Waza? Would it be better to have different opening for each Shinsa bout? How important is it to be the one who successfully lands the first strike? For Nidan, what do you think is the minimum Waza repertoire expected by the grading panel? How important is it to demonstrate Seme, or is it called Semeru, during Shinsa, considering that time is of the essence? Less strikes, but more controlled rather than lots of strikes at a faster pace. Any other advice would be greatly appreciated. Many thanks. Okay. So, right. Let's deal with these one at a time. Do I think it's important to have an opening strategy in mind and carry it out regardless of what the opponent does? No, I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to have a sort of idea of the kind of opening strategy you like to do. But, you know, I wouldn't be mindless over it. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be mindless. What if you're like, I don't know who you are, everything just from this course, or your exact, you know, Kendo situation. But let's say you're like, you know, I don't know, like 4'9" small frame person against someone who's like 6'11", then you know, doing Tobikomi Men straight off the bat probably isn't the best strategy, right? So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say that you should firm it up. But, you know, essentially, look, Nidan, I just wouldn't overthink it all too much. What we're looking for Nidan is that you're starting to really get the grasp of the technical elements of Kendo. If we say that sort of being able to make strikes that are like proper valid Yuko Datotsu, I've said this before. If that is like 100, like 100 is a perfect strike with Yuko Datotsu and a good sort of, essentially your Kendo looks like Kendo, then to get Sandan, you need to get like 80% or higher, maybe 90% or higher, right? For Nidan, you need to be like 60-70% or higher, right? And then Shodan, you need to be like 50-60% or higher, right? Something like that. I'm just pulling those off the top of my head. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like an individual, you know, feeling each time, but you know what I'm saying, right? That's the idea. Essentially, still at a technical level in this point. We're not really looking at how good your Seme is. So whether it's, you know, essentially what we want to see is how good your technical ability is. And so I wouldn't worry massively about your opening strategy or what have you. What I'd be looking at is, okay, is this person able to do strikes that are pretty much fulfilling the criteria of Yuko Datotsu, and how close are they to properly fulfilling, to being sort of perfect strikes? Are they close enough to be what we would be prepared to accept as Nidan? And are their strikes to some extent, you know, are they starting to grasp, you know, the sort of technical elements of Kendo? And then in terms of how important is it to land the first strike for Nidan? I mean, helps, but it's not pass or fail stuff. All right. So it's like, it's better if you can, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. All right. So don't panic if you don't. What do I think the minimum waza repertoire expected by the grading panel? If you're doing Nidan at this point, I'm hoping to see, obviously, that you can do a couple of types of shikake waza. I'm hoping to see like some kind of, obviously, men strikes, hopefully kote strikes, maybe renzoku waza would be good, kote men, something like that, or maybe an oji waza if you can show some, you know that there are oji waza, or even hiki waza, debana waza, these types of waza. If you can show any of them, that's fine. You don't have to show all of them, yeah. But if you can show that you know more than just kote and men, it's definitely going to help. All right, it's definitely going to help. How important is it to demonstrate Seme? Is it called Seme? So Seme and Semeru are the sort of the same word. Semeru is the verb to do it, to do Seme, whereas Seme is the noun. Okay, so essentially, for Nidan, I don't think you have to worry about it all that much. All right, just, you know, don't go, you know, don't go sort of crazy and just go flailing away. Try to show that you can do the strikes starting from the kamae. Yeah, step to the right distance, show that you can understand some idea of what distance you can work from. Then hit with good kikentai no ichi, followed by zanshin and kigamae and migamae, and follow and end in kamae. Okay, and then you should be fine. All right, if you can show sort of 2 or 3 different types of waza doing that, no problem. Okay, next one. Question for the next Kendo RANT. What is expected in Kihon and Kata? A perfect robotic type presentation or a more felt presentation? Right, should we have a look at this video? So here's the video you sent me. It looks like it's called Guard Commander Inspection, Arlington National Cemetery. Looks like it's in the USA. Okay, so it's like one of these, like, I see what you're getting at. So you're sending me this saying, like, should kata be like this, or the kihon waza be like this, where it's like very, very, very sort of, I don't know if robotic's the right word, but it's like, it's super precision. I mean, or whether it should have more feeling, but I'd hesitate to say that this is devoid of feeling. I think it's a different type of feeling. Should kata be like this? Probably not. I think this is probably too extreme to say that this is what the kata is supposed to be honest. You know, it is very, very precise. It's amazing in its own way, of course. But for kendo kata, this is probably a little bit too far. Let me see if I can find a example of kendo kata that I like. Okay, so here's an example of how I think is a really nice way to do the kendo kata. This is from the 8th Dan tournament in 2022, so they still got all the masks on and stuff. They don't do it with the masks on anymore. But this is Furukawa sensei and Higashi sensei, two fantastic senseis, who are going to demonstrate the kata. We won't go through them all, but just show you the sort of feeling. So it's very accurate still, but there is, you know, there is a sort of a feeling of Shinken Shobu in a way, sort of realistic-ish, not massively, of course, within reason, but it's done very precise. All the movements are done with precision, not to the sort of laser precision as that sort of changing of the guard just before, but the movements are sharp and quick, but also done with a feeling of realism. I think this is the way, personally, this is the way to aim for the feeling in the kata for me. I think I quite like the way they do Sanbonme number 3. We'll watch that and then we'll move on. Yeah, so for me, I think this is the right balance there, if you know what I mean. Okay, that's my take on that. Okay, I hope that sort of answers it anyway. Right, next one. I think we've got another video to look at. Hi Andy, I had a question about separating after taiatari. Seems like when two high-level players attempt to separate, one player will hook the other shinai from above while the other ends up with the tip of their shinai somewhere between the left neck or tsuki area. Seems like this is an opening for men for the player who's on top. Example, is there a rule or some aspect of Yuko Datoto that would invalidate a quick on-the-spot men strike from this distance? Or is it not as open as I think it is? Right, let's get the video up, eh?
Theo was able to save by packaging their flight and hotel to...
Okay, so this is a great video from Kendo World. This is of the All Japan Championships from 2019. It's from 2019. Right, let's have a look and then we'll address a question, all right? Just talking about how they separate. Okay, let's go back a little bit, right? Okay, so there's a few things to address. First off, this position is not taiatari, okay? This is tsubazeriai, okay? This is tsubazeriai. Tsubazeriai is when they are together with the tsubas together, looking for the chance to strike. Taiatari is a body crash, okay? The body crash, the act of crashing in, bam, this way with your body, that is taiatari. Then that often results in tsubazeriai, okay? So this position is called tsubazeriai. So next, this video is from 2019. In 2020, I think, they modified the rules of Kendo to prevent the spread of infectious diseases, all right, for the pandemic, all right? And a lot of those are still in place because it would kind of acted as a sort of double-edged sword. It was partly to do with that, and also because they felt that too much time was being wasted at this Tsubazeri position. So the rules have become different. They've become stricter around this now. Okay, so this actual example that you have given, at the time of it recording, it is perfectly standard, and it was totally the norm of Kendo at the time. So I'll answer the question first in that context. However, the current rules of Kendo would make this interaction actually worthy of a penalty. All right, this would be a penalty because it's not allowed to do. You're not allowed to do it this way anymore. But let's have a look at what you're talking about. What you're talking about is here. First off, they're doing the Gyaku Kosa. Okay, this is all right momentarily. But what you're sort of mentioning here is there seems to be a chance to strike here, which there is potentially, but it's not as evident as you might think. All right, it's not as evident as you might think, especially at this very, very, very high level, very, very high level. Okay. Now, second. Given the current rules, all right, given the current rules, once this separation has begun, now, I'm talking about now, not at the time this was recorded, now these two have started to separate, they must separate. They're not allowed to hit now. They're not allowed to hit now. If they make a hit now, it's not considered valid, all right? It's not considered valid. And if it's even to the point where they were faking as if they were going to separate and then they hit, that can even be a penalty now as well, all right? So now they must separate, and they must separate all the way to far distance, all right? Now here, can you see how Matsuzaki-kun here on the right, he actually steps away. He steps away, whereas Kunitomo-san here on the left stays where he is, all right? At the time of this was recording, this was normal, totally fine, no problem. In fact, this was kind of part of the strategy that you would do. However, now this is not allowed. This would now be a penalty for Mr. Kunitomo here on the left because he didn't retreat, all right? Once the separation begins now, both parties have to mutually separate, all right? That's a change in the rules. Again, at the time that this was recorded, those rules were not in place. So that's why it's not happened here, all right? So, but yes, there is potentially a chance to hit here, but it's not as easy to hit from this distance as you might think, all right? Especially sort of from this position. It does look as though you might be able to easy strike here, but it's not as easy as you might think to do that. It really isn't. It really isn't, especially at this level of Shiai. Okay? I hope that answers the question. Okay, next one. And since I have a quick question on cow leather Kurozan Mune, should I use leather conditioner on it or would it ruin it? Thank you so much. Love your videos. You don't need to use any leather conditioner on it. I'm not saying it would ruin it. I just don't think it's necessary. You can just clean it with a damp cloth and then wipe it dry. It'd be absolutely fine. You don't need to do anything else. All right, it's pretty durable. Next one. Hi, hello Sensei, I love your content, always very instructive for a beginner like me. Good, thank you very much. I have a question. Where do you find all the tournament footages? I wish to watch more matches, but it seems I don't have good words to find it. Thank you. So I find them by searching YouTube in Japanese. And because I do that a lot, YouTube suggests a lot of them to me now. But the best and easiest way to do it, if you go on to KendoStar.com, and should we have a look together? I'll show you exactly where you need to go. Okay, so once you get onto the KendoStar website, okay, you see all the stuff here. Right at the bottom here is the KendoStar blog. All right, it's the KendoStar blog. And you'll see I actually post on here as often as I can, not as frequently as I'd like to. I used to do it all the time, but I've been very busy recently. But I post on here. Look, I've posted some on here. Here's the video I was talking about my trip to the USA on the right here. On the middle, there's I posted a blog about the All Japan Interprefectural Ladies Championships. On the left is the latest feedback video I did. So if you look on there, you'll see there's some posted in there. All right, there's some posted in there for a start. And what you could also do is you could click view all at the bottom there, and you'll see the history of all the different ones. Now there's a lot, like I say, recently I've done a lot of my own videos on here. I've not posted many, but if you have a look through, you'll find that there's more. And the stuff where I've done, like, I've taken matches and I've given you an analysis as well. So I've given you some commentary on some of them too. And then if you keep searching through, here you go. Look, here's the Kanto region company workers finals. There's all sorts of stuff in there. So I'd go and have a look in there. Because if you click on these, you'll see there's different stuff. There's the matches in there. And yeah, that's the best way. All right, I'll keep trying to post more. All right, I'll keep trying to post more. You can also use the search function on the website as well up here. I bet if I search, let's say finals, yeah, a load of blog posts come up. All right, a load of blog posts come up. All right, or if I'd searched championships, yeah. So a lot of that. There you go. See, there you go. And these are good ones to watch as well. Ippon-reel. If you see, I title a lot of them Ippon-reel. If you search Ippon-reel, you'll need a space. Yeah. So our website search, it doesn't just search products. You can search blog posts as well. All right. So there's all sorts of posts on here. All right. Oh, that one's been removed, but the original YouTube video has been removed. But there's all sorts. All right. Here's a Ippon-reel from the World Championships, stuff like that. All right. So there's loads you could have a look through. All right. There's loads that you could have a look through. Okay. That is that. Okay. Next one. Hello Sensei, thank you for the video on Monday. As you know, I've been working on keeping my heels lower in my footwork and I'm starting to notice a difference in my speed and control. However, my feet aren't quite used to it yet and have been very sore lately. Is there anything I can do to modify practice so I don't need to skip a practice? Semi-related question, what do you do to relax your muscles and prevent overstretching? Thank you as always. Okay, so I know this is from one of the wonderful members of Rocky Mountain Kendo Club, and the video that they're referencing from Monday is the one about my trip to the USA. Go and watch it if you haven't watched it. So yeah, I mean, you do need to keep your heels lower. And remember, in your specific case, it wasn't just your left heel, your right heel was coming off the floor as well. So I think the best thing is to just try and stretch your muscles so that they sort of, you know, before practice, stretch after practice, and maybe massage them at home and stuff like that as well, until you sort of can get used to getting the footwork correctly. I think you're probably finding there's probably a little bit too much tension in your feet as well. It wants to be nice and relaxed, nice and smooth, nice and relaxed. Okay. In terms of relaxing the muscles, I mean, practice is one of the answers. And you just have to there's a certain point where it will click, right? Where you understand the sort of balance of that relaxation versus the tension. Where you need to be tense, you need to be a little bit tense in your left calf, but not in your right foot. And it's same with your upper body, right? You need to be a little bit tense in your left hand, but not in your shoulders and arms and all that sort of thing. So it's one of those things that sort of reveals itself through practice. Unfortunately, there's no real shortcut. There's no magic word I can say to you and just be like, okay, do this, and it all comes together. It's a little bit I'm afraid, just kind of figuring it out through Keiko. I know you'll get there though. I know you'll get there. I know you will. All right. So keep it up. Keep it up. Next one. At the Amsterdam seminar in this past weekend, I got to do my first Keiko with an Hachidan sensei, Iguchi Kiyoshi specifically. Wow. That's a legend right there. As I sat down for the feedback, he asked me if I'm a student because my movements are very good, but he said I have to vary my Seme more. He said, I did the same seme for every men and same seme for every kote. My question is, what would be a good way for a second dan to begin thinking of ways to work in some different types of seme and avoid and become predictable? It's a good question. It's a really good question, and this came up as a topic of the Edinburgh seminar that I was at a couple of weeks ago. That was run by Kench247.net, and George from Kench247 came over, and he brought Yano Sensei, who's a Hachidan Sensei, and it was very much part of the discussion in that seminar. Essentially, right. Yes, we all know that in our basic Kihon, we can ya, step in, man, ya, step in, kote. These are the very basic types of strikes, right? We all know this, right? But in reality, there's lots of ways to create that strike, all right? So whether that's different ways to step in, okay, do you seme from the omote? Yeah? Do you seme from omote? Do you seme from ura? Do you want to do the seme to the hands, seme slightly upwards? Do you want to do the harai? Do you want to do the osae? Do you want to do the this kind of osae? This kind of harai? Do you want to do the katsugi? Do you want to do the feint this way and then this way? Do you want to do, there's lots of ways, all right? And if you think about it, we learn a lot of them. A lot of them are in our books and stuff like that. But it's a case of just experimenting with them. All right. So, and not just when you get to Jigeko. All right. You can experiment with these when you're doing your regular practice as well. Right. Okay. Let's do 5 times men. Okay. Right. Well, you don't have to do 5 times the same men. All right. You can do lots of different types. All right. So have to experiment a little bit, all right, and don't attach too much to the word seme in this case, all right. I know, when a Japanese Hachidan sensei says something to you like that and uses the word seme, they mean the way that you approach to get the chance for men. They're not looking for some sort of Jedi mind trick in order to, completely sort of mind control the other person. It's about how you're gonna make your approach to attack. All right, just give it a try and give it some work in the dojo, and you'll get there. Hi, Fish Sensei. I have 2 questions that relate to Seme. Here we go again. First, on my 4th Q grading, I received a comment about my Seme attack without opportunity. Then I tried to create opportunity after I step into the attack distance. Then I was told, after stepping, don't hesitate, you need to launch a strike. I know both advice have its values and correct on its own way, but I can only choose one action. Which should I more focus on? 2, Seme is about fight to get center line, but my question is, unless you do a fast small men, otherwise a big men, for example, your shinai will lose the contact of your opponent's shinai in a split second. Then your opponent can regain the center line during that loss of contact moment. And if he also is doing the big men cut from center line, we often crush our shinai as a result. What's your opinion on that, Matt? Thanks. Okay. So first off, Seme is a big word for someone that's looking at 4th Q. Look, it's really about the technicalities of Kendo at this point. All right, can you do Fumikomi? Can you make men strikes with Fumikomi, Kihai, Zanshin, this sort of thing, rather than how good is your Seme? All right. So my advice is, when you're doing 4th Q up to definitely up to Shodan about level, I would just focus on step into your hitting distance and then try to make the men's make the strike with Kentai no Ichi. All right, that should get you as far as Shodan. All right. Then in terms of number 2 about the center line, Seme is not the fight to get the center line. All right. Seme is the ability to is the action of making your opponent, or attacking your opponent with your, it's not attacking, but influencing the decisions of your opponent, or movements of your opponent by making them feel that they want to get, they're going to receive a strike. That's what effective Seme is, all right? It's not who's got the center. Now, the center line becomes a very key aspect of that, right? It does, but it's not the only aspect of it. So you don't have to, it's not about keeping contact with their shinai the whole time. You're assuming that they're not going to move their shinai when you move, but most people do. Most people don't just stand there and do nothing. And if they do, there's other things you can do to get the shinai out of the way, like osae, harai, stuff like that, which is a little bit later down the line, to be fair. Well, you're right though. Like, there's no real good reason to generally do the big men strike in like Keiko though. Big men strike is a mechanic, like a mechanism of Kihon to help you develop the correct cutting technique in lots and to develop your Kendo in those sort of ways, rather than a practically it's not really a particularly effective, practically sort of applied waza. In other words, it's not very good to use in like a realistic situation because it takes ages and the other person see it coming a mile off. So unless you just are working on some, and this happens a lot, obviously at the Q level, where you both work off this sort of unspoken understanding that you're both just going to do these big men strikes at each other, and then one side randomly happens to make a successful strike and the other one doesn't, or the shinai smash together in the middle. But it's not what you're supposed to really be doing. I think it stems from a bit of a misunderstanding of the basics. I've talked about that a lot. Because we do it in Kirikaishi, we do it in Ichikomi, we do these big strikes to help us sort of get our body moving properly, get our arms working properly, build up our momentum, make sure we're moving nice and fluid, and get our muscles moving in the right way so that when we come to use real strikes in a real situation, then we can do the small, sharp, fast strikes, which is what we're sort of supposed to do, right? But yeah, I'm not sure if that answered the question or not, but I hope it did. Hello, Fish Sensei. Quick question regarding a door with a non-Kurozan Mune I got from KendoStar. Thank you. It looks great, and the wear in the Mune gives it some character. But unlike regular Mune, it seems that it did get some smell after a while. What's the best way to wash it? Should I just submerge the Mune in water? I want to make sure I don't damage it. So here's a picture of the Mune. This is obviously a deerskin Mune. It's a genuine deerskin Mune, which does fade over time. Now, I think you said that it's sort of it started to smell a little bit. Now, I would guess that first off, don't soak it in water. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You see where it's gone all, I don't know if you can see you can't see my cursor, but where it's gone all white on the edge there, right? On the edge there. That is probably not so much fading, but I expect that is salt stains. So I'm just guessing here. I mean, it is a place of high wear and tear. But what I'd do is I'd get a damp cloth and I'd give it a good sort of wipe. Don't scrub at it, right? I've got a video about how to clean off salt stains. It shows it on a tare, but I'd do it in a similar sort of way, sort of dabbing it off this way. And I'd repeat that a few times, all right? And then I'd air the dough out for, in the fresh air. It doesn't have to be outside, but just out to try and sort of get rid of the smell. It might take a few days. And that's what I would do. But I reckon if you give this a wipe, a clean, it will go darker. Because I think a lot of that is salt. Next one. Hi, Sensei. I was reading an article by Eiga Sensei. He said that when he was at university, he decided to do proper Kendo, and he mentioned bringing the left foot closer as he previously had a wide stance. This got me thinking, what is proper Kendo? I asked this because from ungraded to third Q, I only cared about attacking and being aggressive. And though I really tried 100%, I lost most matches. Now at second Q, I've realised doing Kendo like that won't get me far. I'm now wondering what is proper Kendo. I'd love to know your thoughts. Last but not least, I just watched your legendary trip to the USA. It was fantastic. A great club. I've seen you taught proper Kendo. I'd love to hear more about your trip. Apologies for this silly question, and as always, thanks in advance. I mean, it's not a silly question at all. It's just a very broad one. What is proper Kendo? It depends on the individual, doesn't it? But Kendo isn't just a game of hitting or not being hit. All right, Kendo is an activity where two individuals compete to achieve yuko datotsu. And make strikes with kikentai no ichi. Proper kikentai no ichi properly unifies the sword, body, and spirit, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do. So it means that it's not just a case of hitting and not being hit, and I think that's to some extent what Eiga Sensei was probably alluding to, because when especially high school kids sort of go through the probably the most sportified aspect of Kendo, it is a game of hitting and not being hit for them for a while, and it's an important aspect of their development. It is, but in order for their Kendo to develop further, as Eiga Sensei said, they have to start working on sort of returning to basics in some regards, working on having their stance correct, they're having the good kamae. Everything starts from the good, solid kamae. Yeah, kamae being the position to attack immediately without preparation. But if you have to go to a wide stance before you can strike, it's not really kamae, is it? So for me, proper Kendo is that, all right? It's competing with another to achieve the yuko datotsu, following the guidance and guidelines of the All Japan Kendo Federation. That's proper Kendo in my book, right? Now, what I would say is at second Q, you're still very much figuring it out for yourself as well. So don't get too overburdened by it. All right, just keep yourself going down the journey for now, and I think things will start to become more apparent to you as you keep going down the road, and you'll start to sort of figure out for yourself what you feel that proper Kendo is. All right, so keep that up. Thank you for the comments as well about my trip to the USA. It was really, really great. I really loved it. I'm not going to lie. I really loved it. It was an absolutely fantastic trip. I love it over in the States. I've been several times, and I love doing Kendo over there. And I'm very keen for an opportunity to go back. Hello, Fish Sensei. I have engraved some patterns on one of those hard leather tsubas that are sold on KendoStar. KendoStar, I'm going to change that because I am a bit of a nitpicker there. Right, okay. Is there any particular paint that I can use to make the pattern stand out more and won't fade or transfer onto my kote when used? I don't know. They're not designed to be modified. So I don't want to give you sort of advice on how to modify something that we're not really supposed to be used modified. But, I get that you can do. If you're engraving stuff in and then putting paint into it, if I was to do it, I'd probably use some kind of acrylic paint, and then I'd probably varnish the tsuba as well. All right. Just to make sure. But I'm not recommending you do that. All right, just to be clear. I'm a larger guy, and I find myself outmaneuvered by lighter or smaller opponents. They come in and out of striking distance quickly and launch multiple strikes faster. I tried being like them, but it wore me down quickly. How should we adapt footwork or our approach our approach to engaging and the opponent based on our physique? Thanks in advance. So, yeah, I mean, it very much is a case of adapting your footwork to match your physique. And if you have the good kamae that's ready to strike immediately and is able to, you know, respond to your opponent's movements, whether that's attacking or effective defense, then this isn't a problem. This isn't a problem at all. Okay. Because I can control, you know, if I'm bigger than the other person, doesn't happen so often. But if I was in this situation, then, you know, I can control the distance myself. So I have to be in control of, I have to be in control of how much I can let them come in or not. All right. Okay. If they start to come in a little bit too close, bam, I'm going to hit them. Or if they try to hit me, bam, I'm going to do some sort of ojiwaza. Don't forget, you know, having the wider stride, the ability to make the larger stride, whether that's going forward for your fumikomi or not, that is also an excellent advantage that you can use. All right. You don't only have to use it going forward. You don't only have to use it going forward, right? So if you can make a very large stride, then when you do, let's say, when they come in for men, you want to do a suriage hikimen type waza, okay? Bam, bam, you can get enough distance for you to hit because you've got that longer stride, all right? So it's just a case of figuring that out and using your footwork properly. And that doesn't mean, what you don't want to do is stand with your feet miles apart. Stand with your feet where they're supposed to be, right? And then you know, there's no reason why you can't control the distance as well as they can, none whatsoever. All right. And then you can be the sort of gatekeeper, for want of a better word, of how much distance is given to them. All right. But obviously that's going to come with experience and having a good kamae and having the good waza to be able to back it up. But it definitely is possible. All right. You're definitely not at a disadvantage. You are an advantage, if nothing else. Okay. Right, next and last one. Here we are. Hi, Sensei. How to get better at kote men waza? I think we cannot just throw out kote men as fast as possible. I tried that and got hit by Devana men at the kote part. What is your pattern of Seme Ashi to set up a good kote men? Or you have to set up trying to hit kote a few times and then go for kote men. Also, do you know the process of how to join the International Kendo Federation? Thanks in advance. All right, I'll answer the second part first. Individuals cannot join the International Kendo Federation. The International Kendo Federation is for national federations. So your country has to join it. All right? So you can't join it directly. All right? So you have to join a Kendo Federation that is affiliated to the International Kendo Federation in the country that you reside in. Okay. For a country's federation to join the International Kendo Federation, I don't know exactly what the process of that is, but I believe you have to have a certain number of people doing Kendo, a certain number of dojos, stuff like that. I don't know. I don't actually, I've never tried to do it, so I'm not sure. But getting back to kote men, I don't really think there's a thing, like, I would generally only go for kote men when I feel like the opponent is going to attack kote. All right. So if I can get them to attack kote or feel like they're going to attack kote, I might try to do kote men as ai kote men. So my kote hits at the same time as theirs, then I hit the men. I don't generally think of kote men in itself as its own sort of waza that I set out to go and do, unless I feel like my opponent is, like, as soon as they feel like I'm going to attack them, they sort of start to step back like that. Might use it then, but I'd probably use something else, to be fair. But it's not to say that I don't hit kote men. I do all the time, all right? But what I do is, I tend to call it, recently I've started to use the term kote karamen, all right? Kote karamen, which is, I used it in the video on Monday about the trip to America, which is where I strike kote, and if the kote is not successful, I immediately strike men. Okay, so it's not so much the kind of tan kote men tan like this. Of course, I can do that one, but it just doesn't seem to be all that successful on its own. Like you say, it's very easy to receive the debana in between, or, as I say, the best time for me to do it tends to be when they're going to attack kote, and I can use it as an ojiwaza rather than as a shikakewaza. In either case, the key to it is your left foot. It's your left foot. After you make the kote strike, you have to immediately be able to hit the men. So your left foot has to be in the correct position to be able to hit men. All right. Takes practice. Means you need correct footwork. You need to have good technique, and you need to experiment to find what works best for you. All right. I'm used to, I guess, you know, if there's someone that sort of does this and then starts to go backwards, then pam pam kote men can work. But for me, the best kote men tends to be when they try to hit kote, or I use, as I say, this what I call kote karamen, where I go pam kote and then immediately pam pam this way, rather than tan tan this way. It's pam pam. This sort of type of kote men for me is a bit more realistic. Okay. Okay. There we are. We're at the end. I know it's a long one. Thank you very much for joining me all the way to the end. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, help grow that Kendo community. Most importantly, shop at KendoStar. And I'll see you all next week. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.